My life is never dull. So enough about me. How the hell are you two?
Okay.
Pretty damn cool, actually.
Yeah?
It's been on the edge for so many people. And I've been very clear with taking care of myself, not really being seduced into the news. I haven't watched TV for decades anyway. Social media, all of that shit, because it's upsetting. And I don't know how much of it's true. And I'd rather not go along for the ride. But if I can take care of myself and I'm safe, then I can extend that to others. And if I don't, then I'm not good to anyone, especially not myself and those around me. So I'm taking care. I am working my arse off like I've never done before. And I'm dealing with issues thick and fast like I've never done before. And when I'm there, I'm really there. And when I'm not, I can still feel it, but it doesn't own me. And I can't say it's been easy, but I wonder if I've had it easier than other people because I've kind of been through it before because of my life story. So maybe I've got more resilience, and I've been through worse. I think maybe what I've been through has set me up for doing what I'm doing now. And it all makes sense. The different aspects of it, not just Africa, but even the refugee camps and how nasty. And it was the refugees that were nasty to us because we're a different culture, because we're kind of, we were brought up Catholic, old-fashioned Portuguese with different manners, European ways, and they were very different. Catholics just lap up the guilt and the we're bad and all of that. And they had a lot of that to dish out. Match made in hell. And all that separation and the nastiness, and then the counterbalance of that in the small town in Wales I was brought up, where it's all about caring and sharing. And all of those different layers I've experienced and people have experienced since lockdown, and I know it, and I know myself there. So I can hold it and I can be with it.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, I'm listening to your voice and all I can hear is I've been built for now. All I can hear from you. And you have, yeah?
Yeah.
And it's sort of, I get that. That is epic. Because I believe that everything is coming together. We can't possibly be coming together at this time in life for any other reason than what we're here to do right now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, let's be honest, like I've got a fairly dodgy track record. And yet, we're sitting here with Alan, and I'm sitting here with you, Kenny, that, like, it's all about heart space.
And your dodgy track record has made you very useful.
100%. Yeah. But it's not like but it still comes with heart, like, yeah. Are you holding up well with the lockdown?
Loving it.
Yeah, you are, aren't you?
Yeah, it's winter. It's just shit outside. Why would I want to go out there? It's bleak, it's cold, it's wet.
Yeah.
I've had, in the old days, I'd leave the country or I'd not leave my home. And I used to have a name for myself amongst my friends for years, that it'll come to a stage in the cold and the darkness where I'll cancel everything for months and they won't see me. And they just had to accept it. That was my choice. Now I've got the perfect excuse. I'm not the only one.
That's it. But the number of people who wouldn't have gone out anyway themselves, who are upset about the fact they're in lockdown, it's like, as soon as they're put into that situation, they're not changing their life at all, but now they're miserable because they can't go out. Well, you weren't going out in the first place. Yeah.
I've had clients like that. where it's time to get married and they found the right woman and everything's perfect. And they say, yeah, but I can't go out playing the field anymore.
You
They
what?
never even found the field, leave alone played it. Get real. They didn't even make it to a car park, leave alone the field. Get real.
I like hearing that because, you know, like at the moment, there's so many men at the moment, and there's people getting divorced everywhere, and it's all about getting out. You know, oh, I've got to go and I've got to go get a shag. I've got to go, and it's like people are really missing the point in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I had a lady. She broke in the last lockdown, and I just caught her literally as she was doing her suicide video. I interrupted it, and anyway, she's just gone through the psych ward, and she's a really high pressure job in the city, in accounts, and we're sitting there, we're talking, and she's gone through the whole system at the minute, and like I love her with all my heart. I think she's an amazing human, and we're just talking about life and what she really wants and how she just doesn't want a partner. And I said, I understand that. I said, because you're working on you, you're understanding you. The more you understand you, the less need there is for a partner. But when it comes along, you'll appreciate it even more.
That's
You know?
it.
And I feel like the corporate world is about to break in a big way.
And one of the things that we've found with the here in Australia, with the largest turnover of jobs, has been in the leadership roles. Because most of them found that they're not leaders, they're managers, and because they haven't got somebody sitting on a chair in front of them, they're watching the back of their heads. They don't know what to do. And
Really?
you know, and corporate's putting pressure on those positions for KPIs and everything else. It's no wonder so many of them are breaking, but none of the organisations were teaching emotional intelligence. There was no proper leadership training. What they called leadership training was bloody management training. And,
The legacy bullshitters are now found out, because it's not about noise and branding. It's about heart and caring and enabling things to continue. And we're now doing, people that I've trained and groups in corporates, because people need to collaborate, and the competitive way of squeezing people out of their last ounce of life is not working for anyone. And they need to collaborate because they need to know how each other is, have each other's backs, and get things done. And if someone's weak or ill or grieving or whatever, they need to be carried for a while. And that's normal. That's good.
That's it.
But no one knows how to, especially in the UK, how to talk and tell the truth. They're beginning to learn that. And I've never heard a Tom talk about, I miss people, I need to be touched, and I need to be in company. All I've heard is sorry, and all I've seen is embarrassment. And to see them change their tune so fundamentally, I never thought that would happen. It's going to be a different world. I can't see them going back now. Admitting that they want other people, rather than being embarrassed to be in the presence of another person and not knowing what to do. You know, when I lived in Australia, it's like, finally there's space for me to exist, because humans are humans. Over here, cold, withdrawn, wired in a very disconnected, inhuman way. And no wonder, considering the leaders were basically sent into posh children's homes from a very young age and shown how to survive and have no emotions whatsoever. And it's passed on and passed on and passed on.
You know, we've raised people up by you know, all the men become the man and women doing the same thing, all in competition. And that came from a place of fear of the people who taught us, because that's what they were doing. And to turn around and go, because we talk about, you know, raising boys into manhood and then helping them become better men, and at the same time becoming a man and not the man. Everybody rejoices when I'm using that term, but then I watch the people who are doing the rejoicing and realizing they don't even understand it.
How many people actually get that concept? They're so busy trying to be the man, trying to be the, you know, we're the most important, we're this, we're that, you know, and it's a huge issue. It doesn't matter where you go. That I'm finding now, the more privately educated, the more less contact with parents. Do you know what I mean? That's what you're saying, Kenny. It's a big problem because you don't get taught any other way than the schooling system, and the schooling system is not that great.
It's not even a schooling system. It's a prison. It's an institution where there's very little love or connection, and people are bred to be in a certain way, and they're hardwired in a certain way, and can't blame them because that's all they've got. You can't share what you haven't got.
Exactly.
So in that, everything that I'm looking at, and like generational trauma is huge, right? It's just absolutely huge because it just keeps getting passed on. But I sort of feel like now is a time where we actually have to take responsibility for the education of it, because it's not, previous generations haven't even known how to talk, let alone comprehend the opportunity of generational trauma. So are we entering a new field of understanding because we've grown so much and we're learning from so many mistakes before us that now's just a new opportunity?
Definitely a new opportunity. And I would say we've got the luxury of even being able to consider this, where they had to keep their heads down and survive. They didn't have the opportunity to even think, to know other ways or other possibilities. And even if they had the money, what would people think was the order of the day? And it was all, I would say, controlled by society, cultures, paranoia. You know, in my community, I would say, what would people think would be projected on the family, on other Catholics, on the community, on Goans, on the Welsh, on, you know, wherever I belonged. That was it. And to an extent, it would be rude to exist and have an opinion, leave alone be different, because that's going against what works and what's good and true. Where now, it would be self-harming not to. It's totally the opposite. But we've got the luxury to consider this. They didn't have it.
Wow,
There's
that's
a number of things, you know, we know that when it comes to it, one thing that we don't know, you know, we don't want to embrace is change. People are scared of it. We've had a lot of eye openers, you know, things that opened our eyes, and a lot of us have picked up on it and have moved with it. But the people who weren't involved in it right from the very beginning, or, you know, their focus was elsewhere, they're just starting to recognize it now, and it's scaring the shit out of them. So we're going to get people fighting. It's the more that we're getting closer to the goal, the greater the opposition is going to be. And so, you know, if we're getting opposition, we should be going, beauty. We're getting closer to it. But then it's, and knowing that, then keeping our focus in the proper direction, not getting dragged back by the fear of their fears and worrying about them not getting, and am I doing the right thing? I know that if I'm getting opposition, then I'm doing the right thing, because 95% of people, you know, rough figure type thing, as they say, within those that move forward, and those 5% who move forward and 95% who don't, the end result is that the more people who complain about what you're doing because it's not the norm means that you're probably doing the right thing. That's the way I look at it. The more opposition I get, the more I know I'm doing the right thing. I had so much opposition to me doing the Campfire Project and the time I was putting into it. All the coaches, the friends around me were going, hey, you should be focusing on your business. Well, I'm in it for the long game. And what people didn't realize is that because of everything I've done, and Campfire Project a major part of that, I was a finalist in 8 local, national and international awards. And I picked up 3 of them as a winner. And I've got another one to go in February. But none of that would happen unless I did all the things I'm doing. Change is a slow process for a lot of people. We can do it like that because it's just a matter of a decision. You can be looking at the crap of everything one moment and then go, what's the other side to it? See, I changed my attitude to my first wife like that. I just decided one day I can keep hating her because she walked out and all the rest of it, virtually telling me I'm not good enough to be a husband and a provider and everything else. Didn't want a sons and all that. You know, I realized, hey, she was doing this because she was confused. But what did you bring into the marriage? What did I get out of that union with her? 3 sons that I love and respect. And so in that moment, my whole attitude changed to her. This is the thing that change can be instantaneous, can be so easy, but so many people are so scared of it, they will keep putting the barriers up and they will fight. And the more that they see you're changing, the more they're going to fight it. The thing is having the courage to continually move forward despite everybody else around you.
Very
I
fine
realize there's
line.
what, 7.7 billion people on the planet. If I've got that one person who's got me in that state, they're being reluctant and everything else, and I am trying to save them. How many other people who I could be helping, but I'm not because I'm spending that time on that person. So, and then we feel, oh, I just turned my back on that person. Well, I also look at it from the other side and go, okay, how many people was I turning my back on while I was dealing with that person? And that's, and you've got to get out of our egos, because I think most people who jump in and want to be altruistic and everything else come from a place, it's about them feeling better about themselves. And I feel better about myself when I know that I may not have helped somebody who was right in front of me, but I've helped a lot of other people. Because I go with the number that I'm able to help, and the ones that do make a change. Because if I got to spend a lot of time with one person and it's going backwards and backwards, I realise sooner or later I'm exhausted. They're not going to change, and all those other people I could have helped who are dying, crying out for help, are now dead, and I then feel guilty of that. I can walk away from anybody in a heartbeat. I've learned that one.
Took me a lot to learn that one. Because I believed people. I believed people's pain, and I believed when they said they wanted it to change. And it took me a lot to realize that that's their control, and that's how they express relationship, and that's what they're used to unconsciously. It's the only intimacy that they will allow. And again, I have to respect it, but I don't need to get sucked into it at the cost of my own life and at the cost of giving my energy to what really does want to grow. It wasn't easy though. How many Hail Marys did that cost? I felt guilty as
Yeah, let's not talk about religion. As close as I got to getting involved in religion, I remember growing up as a kid, it was Catholic cats and potty dogs.
What?
Yeah, the Protestants used to call the Catholics Catholic cats, and they used to then call the Protestants potty dogs.
I've never heard of that. Wow.
I've got to share this. Last night I was sitting there at dinner, and I was just going, Dad, Mum, Dad. He goes, I went into RE today, right? And the teacher goes, Oscar, we're here to learn religion. He turns around to his teacher. He goes, no, sir. I'm actually here to get an education. I'm not here to learn religion. Just because it's a religious school, I'm not here for the religion.
Wow. How did that go down?
Teacher was, I don't know. Oscar didn't express it. I was too busy laughing after he told me. But I'm going to ask him to go back to the teacher's facial expression because I think that is one of the most gold comments I've ever heard from a kid. I'm not here for religious education. I'm here for the education.
Wow.
And that would have been a revelation for the school teacher going, are you really?
Yeah,
A radical idea. Get out of here, boy.
He's an amazing kid. He's, I love him.
How is he getting on? How's he getting on with the other kids and stuff?
He struggles a lot because he's an emotionally intact kid. You know, like he can just express himself. We we got little kid Harper up the road. He's a good kid, full of energy, you know, like, and hasn't got clear boundaries set around him. His mum works nights, his dad works pretty hard, so that, you know, like they're doing it tough. He's the youngest of 4 kids, and pretty bad potty mouth. Comes down here, and Oscar started swearing. I'm like, dude, what's this coming from? That's not you. He goes, oh, I said, just share. He goes, well, Harper swears a lot. And I said, okay, cool. No dramas. Harps, come and sit down for a bit. This is what it is. We have a lot of fun in this house. You know, everyone comes here because we have fun. We do things, and, you know, like, oh, I should, it's inside. And I said to him, Harps, I said, listen, you know, I love having you here. I think you're a great kid. But if you swear and I hear it, you'll be going home for a week, and I won't be seeing you for a week. If you swear again, it'll be a month. So the 3rd time, it's a year. And Oscar's looked at me. And he's pretty much Oscar's only friend in the street. So this is a painful thing for me to do this. Anyway, we went out to the market and we bought these hats. Like, I got a unicorn one, the boys got bunny ones. They got little pumpers and the ears flap up. So we're walking around the market, just what was that? And listening and, you know, like having this amazing day. Awesome, just so much fun. Harper does dance in the shop and they film it, they put it on their Instagram, and just really cool stuff. Anyway, we're on the way home. Harper swore. And excitement. Dropped him off at home, said, Harps, I said, we're not coming back to our house now. I said, unfortunately, you're at home now because you swore. He's looking at me. I said, no, I'm serious. Oscar goes, no, Dad doesn't threaten. So he's gone in. The next day he's come down. I'm like, what are you doing here, Harps? He goes, oh, I thought, no, Harps, can't play. It's killing Oscar. Anyway, all good. They do the week. And then come back and sit down with Harps. I said, this is very serious. I said, I want you to understand how important this is, because your circle of influence is everything. And I'm not necessarily protective of it with Oscar, but I want to make sure that he understands how important it is to have good people in your life doing good things, because otherwise you get affected by that. And you do. And it's happened before in his life where he's gotten into trouble from other kids where he wasn't actually doing anything. Is that correct, Oscar? Yes, it is. All right, cool, no dramas. So I had about doing a few things, and we went down to Bunnings, just mucking around. It's B&Q. And so we're down there mucking around. Harp swore in the car. Straight away, dropped him off at home. He said, what? I said, yeah, a month, Harps. It's a month. So he did his month. Well, it just happened to be while we were down at Wide River and away for 3 weeks anyway, but come down to Harps. What was it like not having Oscar in your life? Because it hurt Oscar, which hurt me. It really hurt me. I said, you're a good kid. I really enjoy having you around. How important is it for you not to swear? How important is it to you to work within the confinements? Yes, yeah, pretty important. I said, cool. I said, you and Oscar get to go and sit down now and put down the boundaries and the guidelines that you guys want to work to, so that we can make sure that the friendship's strong and we can make sure that, you know, we do the right thing. Is that okay? They went and sat down for an hour and they threw things around and, you know. Wow. And then they took them out to Gumbaya World, and we went and sat around the lazy lake for the day where we just, you know. Wow. So it's pretty cool, yeah.
It's worth its weight in gold to be that open and that clear, and to talk about things out like that, and to admit how much they matter, and to have the power to commit through choice. That's life-changing.
Yeah. There's so many situations where, you know, pat yourself on the back. Situations where I think you're just reaching for that sunflower to get itchy coming out of your scalp. But that's the whole thing, is that, you know, as you said, he's got no boundaries around him at all. And kids are lost. They need boundaries. They're looking for them. That's why I keep saying to parents, you know, your kids aren't trying to break you. They're trying to test you to see if you can hold. That's when, you know, they push your boundaries and everything else. It's because they want to know what their boundaries are. And once you give them their boundaries, then they can work within that. So, but then a lot of parents will get to a point to where it then becomes, I've had enough of this, do this. And they put a boundary in, but no understanding what the boundary was. There was no boundary, and now there is one. But what you've done is you put the boundary there, but then with that discussion, you brought the child into understanding what it's all about. So putting boundaries in place is important, but then having that conversation around them is even more important again.
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's when they understand what their boundaries are about.
And I think it's so easy in the moment of frustration and to fly off the handle and make a threat. If you do that again, this will happen. You know, this will be the consequence for your action. That's one of my pet hates. If you tell a kid there'll be consequences, explain what they are. Don't just say there'll be consequences for your action. Explain what the actual consequences are going to be. Okay, so if this continues, I think this is a fair and reasonable consequence for your action. What do you think? How do you feel about that? Is that get them to partake in the consequences so they're thinking about it, then they're actively involved in the opportunity of growth, because it's a growth moment. You know, like I think the number one thing for me that I see continually is, like, we're adults and we're expecting these kids to be adults because we're talking at them. We're not getting down to their level, sitting with them, opening up the dialogue, you know, that allows them to grow and understand. And if they don't understand, thank them and say, listen, that's my responsibility because you're the teacher. They're looking to you for guidance, you know. And it's my favorite thing with a kid at that point. As soon as you come to an agreement, don't say anything, give knuckles. It's a confirmation and it's a touch point, and it's so strong because
it's empowering. Rather than a hierarchical, I have the power. For them to step into power as normal that early, what a gift.
I can't wait to see the world that we create. And I'm being serious. When we teach, we teach kids that's how we empower them. You know, that it's you know, we've got a situation at the minute where, you know, my son is a beautiful kid, and at 9 years old, he's a big kid. He's a strong kid, you know, and I'm the little man, and he's happy to come at me full fist blazing and gets it all out. And we sit there, and like during lockdown, 11 o'clock at night, he lost it. It's just energies were through the roof. That's it, kid, out in the gym, and we're boxing, and he's kicking, and I'm holding the pads, and he's kicking and punching, just losing it.
Wow.
And at the end of it, we just laid down in tears because it was just too much. It's too emotional for him. And that's okay. But it was, that energy was just kept within the boundaries. We got rid of it and we expressed it and we understood it. And we got an incident at school where he gets bullied. And it's because he's strong, because he's got that emotional intelligence, because other children can't express themselves like he does, so they annoy him. And yet I've given him permission to stand up to this kid and break his nose. I've given him permission. He goes, Dad, it's not the right thing to do. I said, I fully appreciate that, Oscar, you know, but I want you to understand that that's in your arsenal. That's there.
Yeah,
if
it's not
you
a
need it,
no-go area.
it's there, you know, because that I don't wish to use it. I want to try and find other ways. There's a 9-year-old kid trying to putting that out there. Like,
by giving that concept of being, I've said, right, well, if he does, then tell him this, then that gives him thinking about that. And he can then go, well, as you've said, he goes, well, that's not what I want to do. But that then puts him on the track to finding the solution. I think what people don't realise that half the time when you say something to them, they take that as being the gospel. And half the time it's a steering comment. It's, you know, it's like, you know, when somebody says to me, oh, I don't know. You say, well, what can you do? And they go, oh, I don't know. And then you ask a really stupid question, which is, well, if you did know, what do you reckon the answer would be? Now, that sounds as dumb as they come, but what it does, it causes their mind to start looking for answers, because nobody likes unanswered questions. And so they'll try and answer it, and then that starts to stimulate the brain, and then little sparks go on and everything else, and then they finally go, oh, I've got this. And then they're the ones who have found the solution. And that's the thing with the boundaries, sitting down with them and talking about the boundaries and discussing why they're there and getting their feedback and everything else. That's getting all those new synaptic connections in process. It's all about the process in the way in which we do it. So important.
That's life. Like it's, and I love that. The destination is just a reward for the journey you've enjoyed. So get involved in the journey, you know, and like I've run a few ultra marathons, and every single time it's the same result. Now the finish line's great, but it's not the finish line I ever talk about. It's about the guys I've trained with. It's the guys on the run, me whinging about having a broken metatarsal in my foot, telling everybody because, you know, I'm sharing the journey, and I'm sure everybody knew about me with my socks because I told everybody about them. But it's the journey, you know, like the journey's always better than the destination. So enjoy the journey, understand the journey, explore the journey, see what opportunities you have in the journey. Yeah. So are we recording this yet for the panel?
It was being recorded.
I think so far we've just been on to talk, and we've just ended up with so much gold already.
And that's what happened. Of course, I don't know what's happened to Jerome. I've sent him a Facebook message, but he still hasn't got that either. He hasn't answered it. Yeah. I see that he hasn't even read it. So he may be having internet problems again. But whenever I start these, I've got a bad memory. Usually I've done a couple of talks with people, and I'm going to record this, and I've forgotten to. And I've kicked myself because of it. So I've got the system. Whenever I go online with anybody, it switches on. It's already recording. And then business calls, I just delete those later on. It's easier to delete them than it is to go, oh, I forgot to record it, lost all that stuff. There's nothing worse than doing a panel discussion or a one-on-one, especially a one-on-one, where someone pours their heart out, and for that to be totally lost. So, we can have a look through this later on and go, oh, that little bit's a great little snippet. We can use that.
I was about to say that because this is like, every single time I get together with you two, it's just beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
It really is. Right.
The space for us to be us, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, these are the conversations, and I feel really sorry for so many other people who just don't have them, or they're scared of them. I know that women complained that men weren't emotional, weren't expressing themselves. And then recently, I've been hearing some women talking about, oh, they're tired of all these men who are trying to get into their emotions. They want the strong man again. And it's almost like it's at that end or that end. It's like one of my traits being at one end of the trait or the other end of the trait. And it's a matter of, well, how can we be at different points when we need to be? If I want to connect with somebody, I've got to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way they need to be spoken to. It's not the receiver's job to change its frequency for the transmitter. It might be if you're listening to the, FM, AM radio stations, because you've got to tune in. All the little receivers out there got to tune into the transmitter, because there's only one frequency going out, like 104.3. When you've got a communication, the transmitter's job is to change the way that they speak to match the way the receiver's tuned in. And so the more we can read that person, the more we can change. So I'm not a chameleon as far as when I communicate with people changing for the sake of just being a change and being able to control the conversation. It's about how do I respect them so much, and because I really want to get my message across, how do I speak to them in the way that they need to be spoken to? And so therefore, I'm changing all the time, but I can do that. And it should be the same thing, that there are times when, yes, you need to be strong. And there are times when you need to be gentle. And a man who can shift along along that continuum for the situation, they're the men that I'd prefer to be spending time with. It's like you guys, these are the conversations we have. But there are so many people out there who whinged about men weren't being emotional enough. And then now some of them are whinging about the fact that they are, because it was too much for them to take, because they were looking at the men to change, but they weren't ready to change themselves. And this is not just women, this is other men as well. It's a fearful thing.
I'm going to buy right into this argument, because like we've been asked as men to be more emotional. We've been asked as men to be more caring. We've been asked as men to be better fathers. We've been asked as men to be more caring around the home and do things. We're doing a bloody good job within 2 generations to really step up and actually be a part of this and learn new skills. I honestly feel that a lot of women are scared of that. A lot of women, it's opening up big wounds inside women. I'm so grateful for the Campfire Project in this aspect, because I've got women who have done so much work on themselves and so much self-improvement that I can hold conversations in here with safety, because there is no fear. It comes from a place of love and understanding that we want to grow together, and it's not a place of fear. Like, for me to sit there with 5 women and have my opening question, what does it feel like to have a penis in you? That's my opening question, right? And to have the response of what I had, it was shock. And then, no, hang on a sec. He actually wants to know this answer. He actually wants to understand this, because he's a man. He doesn't understand. And then have the respect to answer that honestly, and to find the connection between, what a beautiful world that is, and I feel that I actually have less and less places to go to talk now. I went out for a Saturday lunch with other people, and they opened up a conversation on suicide, and I didn't talk. Because I know a lot about suicide. I know a lot about what happens in the moments. I know a lot about how to work through it. I know a lot but I knew that conversation, if I entered it, it was too heavy for them. And I find myself now a lot in situations where I have to step away and not say anything anymore. Because as a society, we're not really ready to take on those conversations. And that's why I value these so much.
And see, those are really important, because when you just said that, you're not stepping into the conversations, for other people to be able to change and everything else, they're the ones that need to step into it. If we jump in all the time and give our opinion and all the rest of it, we're really not giving them the opportunity to find. It's like, as you said with the boys, you said, these are the boundaries. What do you think about it? It's when they start talking and explaining their view and everything else, that's when they're learning. That's when they're really growing. Before that, we're just telling. And it's when they talk about their experience, and that becomes part of their neurology then. And that's how it comes together. But I had to laugh when I knew you were going to talk about, when you mentioned the 5 women. I knew exactly which one that was going to be. Kenny Scott had sent me a message earlier. He said, can you keep an eye on this one? He said, I'll have my messenger open. Just make a comment if I'm going off track or something like that. Well, the end result was, with Scott's Thursday nights, I find it a great time for me to really slow down, have the laptop in my kitchen, and spend some time preparing a meal instead of rushing him as I usually do. And I'm glad I'm good at profiling people, because as soon as he mentioned that, I looked at the women's faces. As he said, there was shock, but there was an instantaneous expression on just every one of their faces of it completely changed from that initial shock straight into the compassion and how can we deal with this and explain this to Scott in a loving way. And they did. Angela jumped in, and that's her expertise, is in the emotions and everything else. It was absolutely beautiful to watch. And the women just came in and just handled it so well, nurtured Scott all the way through with it, and answered every other question after that. And that was an extremely powerful conversation. And this is the beautiful part. This is what I love about the Campfire Project, because the people who have come in, people keep, thanking me and everything else. I'm going, you have no idea how greedy I am and how much I've received out of this, because I get to sit there and listen to so many people tell their stories and get to understand the depth of those people and realize that not only see what they're achieving, but what they can achieve, which gives me so much hope for this world. And so, and that's one of the things I'm realizing. There are more and more people who want to do this, but they've been reluctant in the past because the bigger world around them wasn't ready for it. And if you're the only one who's ready for it, then it's hard to find a way forward, because everyone's there as an opposition. They're scared of it. If they're scared of it, and that's why having people coming together, just seeing people grow so fast in the Campfire, and the growth has come from the fact that the environment's been right. It's allowed people to be themselves, not to change, but to bring out what was already inside them. And that's what I love. Like seeing that rough bit of stone and then realizing it's a diamond.
And that there is something that I've learned in the hard way, as usual. But you need to go to a place where you're valued, and if you're not valued in your current community for being who you are, that's okay. There is community out there that you will be valued, and that's a really hard thing for people, because you're so used to one way of life and you haven't had experiences to show you something else. And when you get that opportunity to be shown different experiences and you start to feel, it's a hard place to step and stay into. But it's worth being a part of that community. It's worth being in a place where people want to hear you, want to understand you. There's a particular individual at the moment that I just adore. I think the absolute world of this person. I want him in my life because it's just, yeah.
I've also learnt, and this is difficult, how important it is for people to dislike me, judge me, and totally take the piss, because if they're the ones who I don't want to be like, then I know I'm on the right lines.
That's it.
And that was tough for a people-pleasing mummy's boy. It was very tough.
I hear you on that, Kenny. And I think that's one of the greatest things in life, is when you realize the person attacking you, if they aren't what you want to be, know that you are 100% on the right path. But I think one of the best things you can do is not respond and actually just at all. Be grateful for the experience, find out why you've been triggered and process that before you respond to it. Once you've found out the reasons why and you understand why you've been triggered, then choose to respond. Make it a choice. Excellent. I'm actually going to research that further, get more understanding about what it is I don't like, because then I don't have to have that in my life. I can see it more often. That's that. Excellent. Thank you. It's not part of me.
There's a lot of the time when people are having a go at you, a lot of it is envy, a lot of it's jealousy. They'd like to be where you are. They realize they can't. It's like bullying as well. Bullies will bully other people because they want to feel better about themselves. And they've gauged themselves against you. And so if they're attacking you, this is like the tall poppy syndrome. As soon as we stick our head up here in Australia, we just go, that little fraction, somebody is there with a hedge clippers trying to take the top off and bring you back down to the same level. Because somebody who becomes successful reminds other people of what they haven't done. And therefore they want to be able to be there themselves, but quite often because they don't know how to be there. And the other thing is, how many people won't ask questions because they're worried about what people will think of them. As they say, if you don't ask questions, you're dumb for forever. Whereas if you ask a question, you're only dumb for that moment.
That is such a brilliant line. I can't believe it took me 56 years to hear that line. That is such an excellent line.
There are so many little lines that I hear, and I hear these truisms and everything else, and I just laugh. I go, oh my God, the obvious. But because we didn't understand it, we never accepted them. I just shake my head at times. Hey, you're only talking about 50-something years. Try about 68, going on 69. I was just hoping I'd make manhood before I passed away. There's so many men that are growing up. And this is the thing, I've been programmed to calling people of certain ages men. And I think it's really a case we should be calling everybody male, like the males amongst us, males, but not using the word man, because there's no such thing as a good man or putting another adjective in front of it. It's a case of you're either a man or you're not. And age has got nothing to do with it. It's the quality of your heart. It's the things that you've learned, the experiences, and how you apply those. As they say, knowledge is power. Well, no, it's not. Applied knowledge is power. So getting that knowledge and applying it, then you've got experience, and that's when you have wisdom. And wisdom, they say, comes with age. No, wisdom comes with experience. And that can, as you've seen, young Oscar, not even 10 years old yet, and look at the wisdom that's there, well ahead of his years.
It's brilliant. Like, and I often wonder whether or not I'm doing the right thing, because I firmly believe that I'm here to be a role model for him. I'm here to be not an educator in the sense of hold the boundaries for him to explore. And it comes at a price where he's not like the other kids. And am I stealing his childhood from him? By having these conversations, and that's a concern for me, because I don't want to do that. But at the same time,
I don't see that you're stealing his childhood. I see that you're expanding his childhood because he's having more experiences in there. We want men to be better men, and women want men to be better men. Well, that's not going to happen until we start the cycle. And today's conversation was going to be with Jerome being here. We've got that internet problem. We've lost him. Was going to be around, because we spoke last time about the growth of boys and the manhood, the images of men and how they affect masculinity, and what we as men as society need to improve it. And we're talking about not just International Men's Day and men being better men, but helping our boys to become men in the first place. And doing all that. And this, yes, you're going to feel some guilt when you think of some of the things that the things he's up against with the other kids and everything else. But if you didn't, you'd just be like every other parent, and you'd be robbing him of that person he is, and who he's going to be able to grow further into. We have to do this, and there's going to be times. As I said, when anybody feels challenged, they're going to attack. And what you're doing is you're showing that he's on the right track because he's getting attacked. And it's because the other people are attacking him because they're scared. They don't understand it. But the better that he can become in that role, the more he can explain it, and the more chance he can help them. How many times have you found that somebody who's been attacking you, you've ended up being able to help them, and you've in that help, they've changed their life, and you know that you've been part of that. How have you felt then? There was a lot of opposition beforehand, but when you had that breakthrough, oh, how beautiful is that? So we know half the time the journey is going to be tough, but when we get there, we'll know that, yes, as you said before, Scott, the journey is really important, But sometimes the destination reminds us of what we've actually really achieved in that journey. And that's when we get to the destination, we realize how powerful and beautiful the journey was. But how many times now do we look back on the things that we happened to us in the past and we go, yeah, they made me who I am today, and I'm glad I went through it. Back then, would have liked to have got away from it real quick. So it's, quite often the rewards is not in the doing at the time, it's in the realization later on.
Yeah, I mean, you've just taken me to a couple of places in my head, and then like I always take at least a month off over Christmas. That's my time with Oscar and down the coast, and come back a bit tanned than normal, which is great. But it's a couple of things that I'm a firm believer in, and it's my job to put the guidelines in. But as we talk inside the Campfire Project, it's up to the other men in my community to help Oscar's growth, and that's really important to me. And while Andrew, who's down at White River with us, he's camped behind us for the last 5 years, and he's been going down there for 60 years, and he's a beautiful man. Oscar did his first mountain bike riding. He took Oscar. Do I want to come? No. Andrew, is the more professional mountain bike rider. I've not done very much at all. Why would I take him? And Andrew did that, and I'm so grateful. What a gift he gave Oscar, because the men in my community look after my son too, and that's the rites of passage that I foresee needs to happen. And it's been my whole mission, and the entire time I've been involved in Oscar's life and in the community of the school, to try and create a group of men that the kids can go to, that you don't just have to go to dad all the time, because dad's one version. There's so many different versions of people in the world, and you've got to learn them. The best place to learn them is from other trusted men. And like, we're doing nippers, and the surf was big. So I'm like, now that I'm a lifeguard, I went out with Oscar, and we got halfway out, and he's panicking, and he had his safety blanket. He had me with him, and he wouldn't go any further. I was like, no. Awesome. I grabbed another dad who was in the water safety. He said, can you take Oscar because panic levels? He goes, yeah. Within 5 minutes, he's out the back of the surf. So that growth comes from having other people support you to get out there, and I just dream of a world where we become communities again, where that's allowed, and that's a place to be.
The word, and come a community again, and we were once upon a time, and it would, we see, you hear it all the time. People saying, "Oh, it takes a village to raise children," and so people then look at what we've just, you just said then and go, "What's he talking about?" Well, that's a perfect example of it. If dad's the only guide, then the child is, the son especially, is going to look at the parent, the father, and realize that he's going to aspire to be like his father all the way through, and therefore he's going to be a clone of his dad. He doesn't really have that personal value until dad's gone, because where's his value? And this is why in tribal times it was the other men. Boy would look at each one, take a bit from each of those men, the good parts that they really like the most, create their own identity, and because they've taken that from all those different people, they're uniquely different to everybody else, and they got value straight away. So while dad still has his role of in the community, the son has his role as well in his own right, and he's got more chance to grow and everything else. You've got to have the other men around. This is why trying to be the man is such a self-defeating process, and also robs your family as well. If you're being the best version of yourself, and you're bringing other, who do you want to spend time with? Not dickheads. You want to spend time with people who are of equal values, who have the same values around things, who have the conversations where you can really, get into meaty conversations that you can learn more from each other. And in doing that, you're all becoming a man and the best version of yourself. And we want the best version of ourselves to be around other men of their best version of themselves. And the child is the recipient of that again as well. So you can't change men and not see a change in their relationships to their partners, their children. Everybody else is a recipient. We've got all these groups saying, okay, I want to fix this problem. I want men to be this, or I want women over here to be that. The problem with that is nobody's going, well, if they do become that, have you seen, who's the recipients of that? If women became more compassionate towards men and what the men are going through and everything else, the men would be the recipients. Men become better men. Their partners are the recipients of that. Their children are the recipients, the community. The trouble is we're too focused in fixing that little area instead of sitting back and going, okay, if we fix that area, how does that flow out? And when we realize how that flows out, and that's when we go, yep, now we got it. Now I understand.
I was just smiling because I dream of that world. You know, like I've got an experience coming up that I can't really, I can't wait to share that journey because I'm going to sit on it because as you both don't know anything about anything, neither of you, but there's an experience coming up in my life that I get to be a man, and a changed man at that, because I don't want to be the man anymore. I just want to be a man in amongst a beautiful little world.
That's it. Yeah.
So,
Let's really embrace other people and they can embrace us as well. Isn't that what we all want to do? Even the ones who want to be the man, they're doing it because they want to be accepted and acknowledged by everybody, but realizing that in the process of becoming a man, they don't realize that they're actually pushing people away from them. They're actually doing the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. Yeah. And the real strength, you know, the men that we've had come into the group who have just opened up and without any fear have just really shared their stories from the heart. Oh God, the power of that and the respect we have for every one of them. Yeah, and as I said before, this is where I feel really great because they've respected me enough to share that with me. That in itself is a real honor. Thank you very much, guys. And the women who have come in and done the same thing, knowing that this is a safe place where, you know, the men are going to be respectful in return. And you're going to get what you give out. So you give the respect first and you receive it back. If you don't receive it back, then you know you're giving it to the wrong people and you just turn your back and walk away and find somebody else. There's 7.7 billion people on the planet. There's plenty of people out there to be associated with. And I think that, as you were saying, when you're looking for a better world, the better world is right there inside the world we've got. And it's, as I said before, it's a click of the fingers, the decision you make for each of us, and we're there. We don't have to change the world. We just have to change ourselves. To change ourselves, we'll notice everything else around us differently. And all of a sudden we'll go, what a beautiful world. Because I look at the Campfire Project. Yes, it's on Facebook. It's a closed group. But at the same time, it's the people in here are also the people outside as well. They're outside in the other world. So they're having an impact out there.
I just want to grab something there with Kenny that Kenny said earlier. And he's talking about not watching the news and not having that impact. And, you know, Kenny's in lockdown right now. And one of the experiences that I had through the 2 lockdowns, the second one in particular, I don't watch the news. I had no idea what's going on. I still couldn't tell you what's going on with the COVID cases. I don't even know if I'm meant to be wearing a mask or not at the minute. I carry one in my pocket. If I'm told to put it on, I'll put it on. But how much easier is it living at the moment, Kenny, without that external influence?
I dumped the news a long time ago. And I think I'm very lucky because what people thought happened to us in Africa and what actually happened were miles apart. So I knew that something wasn't right there. And then a long time ago, I worked in the news, I guess. I was paid to start an Answered Entertainment's news agency. So we provided information to the media about where the royals are, who's in the country, who's releasing a movie or a book or anything that's newsworthy. And I understood how it worked and how with Buckingham Palace, there were deals made. You have this story, you don't use that story. you put that in the public, you hide this, and how even now the story is edited for use, and it's got nothing to do with truth. So why engage in any of that hoax? Doesn't make sense. What's real for me is the way that I feel, what I believe. And if I get distracted, then it's just extra work to get myself back and get real. I know it's not true. I know that the statistics often, maybe not always, are sponsored to prove a point. It's the way it works. And I need to be responsible for myself. And as you were saying, I can't wait for that world to happen. I need to be responsible to live in that world now, because otherwise I've disengaged, and that's too painful, and it's too important to disengage from. And this world is the world that I believe in. And now that we've had Reset pressed, I want to be successful in creating and enabling the new world, where the old world, I wasn't willing to play because I didn't like the rules, and I didn't want to be successful in something I don't believe in. So it's a major turning point for me, major. And I have a lot of power, and my power is to live in truth and to feed what I want to grow, not what I want to go.
So I know that, you know, I hear doom and gloom outside all the time. You know, we had one of our Orders of Australia, because I had Australia Day, and we heard the awards, and I saw an article where, you know, getting rid of the stigma of mental health and things like that is really important. So I write to these people and go, well, we are doing something for 2.5 years. Over 350 hours of conversations, of respectful conversations between men and women. And as I keep saying, in all the interviews that we've had, not once has any man or any woman been rude to any man or any woman. It's been pure compassion. It's been support all the way through. We have that society they're talking about outside. And I tell them about it, but not one of them have actually responded. I even spoke to one that I thought would have, because of his background, Indigenous background. I told him what we're doing, and he went, oh, somebody else might be interested. Didn't say to me, you know, because in the media, didn't say to me who else I could speak to or anything, or introduce me. He just fobbed it off because they're conditioned to sell the doom and gloom, because that's what gets the money for the sponsors. That's what keeps them on the air.
Exactly.
And they're propagating the problem. How do we get rid of fear and everything else? The off switch on the remote control. That's how we change our lives. You know,
there's money in fear. There's power in fear.
That's it. There's somebody's making money out of it. You know, I used to work with, as a massage therapist, I was working with terminally ill patients. And I had one guy came to me with stomach cancer. The health, what do you call it? A herbalist that sent him to me. And we worked together for about 3 months. But one of the things I got him to do straight away, so I asked him what his routine was. This is in the middle of the GFC. He's a painter. He was a commercial painter. His business is going through tough times. He's an elder in his church, and he's hearing everyone's problems. And he kept on saying he'd had a gutful, so I wasn't surprised he had stomach cancer. And, you know, I said, well, the first thing, I said, what did you love doing when you first got together with your wife? So we used to sit around, we'd, you know, prepare the meals together, we'd laugh and everything else. You know, in that stage, they weren't watching the news. But now, first thing you did was come home, sit down in front of the TV and watch the news. And I went, well, don't put the news on. Stop reading the newspapers, turn the TV off. He goes, what do I do? I said, well, do you like a glass of wine? And he said, yes. I said, well, first of all, you know, go back to what you did before. I helped prepare the meals with your wife. He said, but I'm a lousy cook. I went, well, do you like a glass of wine? Top up a bottle of wine, pour a glass for each of you, sit and talk while she's doing that. And it wasn't long before he was back to preparing meals with her. And his cancer reversed. You know, he had the herbal remedies working on that, so what he was putting in his body. But the major one was what was going on between his ears. Because every thought we have creates a chemical reaction, because that's how our body works. And so different emotions will create different chemicals. And the, you know, the anger, the frustration, all of those negative emotions, they're sending out chemicals which are negative to the organs of your body. And different emotions are going to affect different organs. That's why, and I've had a doctor say to me, oh, that's rubbish. And I said, well, I come to you with a liver complaint. Are you going to give me kidney pills? And he goes, no, I'm going to give you pills for your liver. And I go, well, how does that work if all the chemicals are the same? Because we create the medicines around the structure of the cells themselves, because the receptors that allow that chemical to go into the cell. And he went, and I go, your thoughts are chemicals. And I just watched this little light bulb go on. I think it was only about a 3-watt light bulb, because there was that fear of fully accepting him and going, oh my God, you're right. But there was the ego behind it. But I could see it just flickered through. So I know that would have had a change on the way he was thinking of things. We are so conditioned by what's around us. And as I say, turn off the TV with the news and other things like that. You start finding the best people who are, in different fields. That's why I've worked in so many different modalities, because no one modality, even face profiling I do, is not, it's not the answer to everything on its own. And therefore learn from everybody else. I can't be an expert in everything. That's why I have the best people around me. And I have those conversations all the time. As I say, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. At the same time, I don't want to be a total dumbass either. So I don't want to be, well, I'm not going to learn anything. And the person who knows, who's smarter than me, knows just that little bit, but not much. No, I want them to be brilliant. And then for me to be able to spend time with them and to come up to their level of what they know, and me to share what I've got so they can grow as well.
One thing that, and with the fear stuff and the adrenaline, I found it incredibly insecure to not have that pumping through my veins, because it was crap. And if it wasn't there, then something really bad might happen, because I was so used to it. So it was weaning my body off that fix. It was an addiction, and to be safe in safety rather than to be safe in fear, to be safe in love. And it's the same with the rewiring. Things can shift in a second. They do. It is a moment. But to be sustainable and to be normal might take a little practice for the rewiring. It goes from the spiritual to the emotional to the mental to the physical. And the more dense, the more solid the foundation. Easy to change when it's a high frequency. But for me, I needed to really embody it, and it took time and a lot of courage. It had nothing to do with other people. It had everything to do with me just slowing down and claiming my space back. But yeah, it was a huge addiction. And when people are on the change, I need to remember that and hold that and gently enable them to adjust, rather than fighting it, because that feeds the adrenaline again, or the wrong, or all of that stuff. But yeah, funny things, hormones.
Yeah, I know that people talk about getting rid of addictions, and the whole thing is that everybody's got an addiction. Every last person on the planet. You cannot get rid of addictions, the same as you can't get rid of your emotions. But it's a matter of, well, with the emotions, recognizing them, as you're always saying, and that not knowing how to work with them instead of them, controlling us. Because anger, don't get rid of your anger, because if somebody attacked your family, it's appropriate to get angry and to defend them. If you didn't, well, you keep turning the cheek, you run out of cheeks pretty quickly, and somebody's been hurt. And the same thing with an addiction. But I've chosen my addiction, which is this new lifestyle. And I'm not going to go back to the other one. So I'm certainly not going to get rid of this addiction, because I like this one. It's tasty. So much joy in it. And so it's, when people say get rid of something, I go, no, you'll probably find that is part of you. So it's then, how do you then change from the one that you don't want? What is the one that you do want? Because you can't, get rid of something and leave a vacuum, because nature abhors a vacuum. Something's going to come in. Well, work out what it is you want to replace it. And if you're doing that all the time, then that becomes an addiction.
And the
So
way
addiction is not a bad word. It's just
that,
the type of addiction itself you got to choose.
yeah, and the way that you've set up this environment, and you, Scott, talk about the community for your son. Of course, we're going to be products of our environments, so we may as well take responsibility for the environments.
That's it.
Wholeheartedly. And that's, you know, like, I adore the Campfire Project. I adore the people in it, because we sit here and we talk with love in our hearts. We've gone beyond the fear. We're coming to love. We're going into our gut where we understand each other. And, you know, the world has been run on fear. All marketing is based on fear and what you don't have and what you don't. When you shed that fear and you come from love, it's more powerful than fear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we don't understand how the power of love and the power of connection, that we're held in fear, because it's a scary place to be in love and to absolutely accept people as they are. But once you accept it and you take responsibility for it, it's beautiful. Like, I can only talk about my experiences in life because they're my experiences. That's what I know. But I ran fear.
Mm.
That was my tool of choice. I'm now coming from a place of love after a lot of pain. And I would walk through that pain again and again and again to feel how I feel now.
Mm-hmm.
To sit there and have genuine tears of love for my wife and an opportunity.
I can't imagine the feelings that you must be having. I would love to have seen your face when you opened that card and read those words.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity. An opportunity to love my wife more. An opportunity to be another better version of me again. Oh, you got me now, you know? And I think people are amazing. I think people are genuinely amazing. And we don't have to fear each other. We just have to understand each other's on our own individual journey and to accept that that's what it is and be grateful for everything that we experience in life, you know?
That's it, as you say, that there's so much we can see the potential in people, and the frustration sometimes is that we can see it, but they can't see it. And it always reminds me of the Wirrigans and the Dirrigans, the wise men and women of the Aboriginal tribes, was that they would step up, give their opinion when they thought it was appropriate. If nobody listened, they just sit back, and no animosity or anything else, no angst about the fact that they weren't listened to, but the fact that it was a case of, well, they're not ready yet. And just sit back and just listen again without interfering and trying to force a change, and just going, when the time's right, and they come up and they talk again when the time's right. And to have that sort of peace to be able to do that with people, that's the challenge for us. Because a lot of the time, when you start to realize that there's a better world and you start to change the way you're doing things, there is the fear of becoming like another born again Christian. And then I've just realized it's a great way, without having any experience, and then jumping in and trying to tell everyone else to change. And that's what when I look at a lot of the coaches out there, all I see is born again Christians, because that description of them just fits so aptly. That they can see the potential in everything. Of course, they haven't fully embodied it themselves, but they're trying to tell everybody else how to do it. So realizing that that's there, that temptation is always going to be there. It's one, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly had to work through it. And it's when you start to sit back and you go, okay, well, they're not ready yet. There's still that little niggle at the back. And I realized, well, that's ego. And being able to put that aside then you know, if you want to see that change, if you want people to actually listen to what you've said, then by not forcing what you've said is the best way to do it. When you force it, the barriers are going to go up.
There's something that we talk about a lot inside the Campfire panel is, you know, that communication's only 7% of what we say. And, you know, the rest is all body language and everything. Unless you're put into a place of safety and love, if you're put into a place where you feel hurt and you feel safe, then you hear the words that are coming out because you know they're from a good place. And the only place you can do that is when you feel completely understood. So as a coach, I'm a great coach because I take my time to know you before we even look at anything. It's not about me. It's about me learning you so that I can understand how I can sit and learn you more and we can grow together, because that's the experience for both of us. It's not a one-way street. I'm not looking to categorize anybody. I'm looking to learn you. You are uniquely you. You know, and when you see you through my eyes,
that's it. They're not going to see you through see themselves through your eyes until, you know, you've made it safe enough and you've guided them to be able to see that. You know, I know that they say that, you know, when you start telling somebody a story that you know, something that's going on, the average is about 19 seconds before somebody is giving you advice. And I know a lot of coaches who are like that. As soon as you are, oh, that's because of this. And I go, oh, you've just told me all about you. Because as they say, one finger pointing and three fingers pointing back, when they jump in really quickly, you push their button, it's reminded of something in them. And now they're telling you what they should be telling themselves, but have never had the courage to do. And so with that, one of my sons had asked me, he said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, you sit down, you listen to somebody and you ask questions. And he said, well, what happens when you've run out of questions? I said, I guarantee that having asked all those questions, there'll be more questions. I said, when you finally feel that you've totally exhausted all the questions, you probably won't have to give it any advice, because the questions that you've asked has caught that other person to stimulate their thinking, and they've come up with their own solutions. A number of people used to say to me, oh, I've worked this out, and they'd go away happy and everything else. And somebody said, but you know, they haven't acknowledged that, you know, it's because of the question you've asked. And I go, it's not about me. It doesn't, you know, and people will say in business, well, that doesn't help your business because people aren't out there saying, you know, they're telling everybody you fix their problems. I don't want to fix anyone's problems because too big a responsibility. I want them to fix their problems. And the best way I can do that is to hold that space, ask all the possible questions, and in that, I will guide their own, come up with their own answers. And if they come up with their own answers, nobody can tell them they're wrong because they're their answers. But if you try and tell them, they can then blame you when they realize that, well, I haven't got the full truth, there's something else comes up. And I go, no, I want to make sure that they make their own decisions.
And then it belongs to them.
Yeah, I want to.
Otherwise, it's left.
I've stopped pointing at people. I point at people like this now, just to make sure that it's them, not me. But
I noticed that those two fingers were together. So is that right? You're the problem? I'm okay.
You're the problem. I'm okay.
You're the problem.
But I just on that, and you know, it's a really important thing, because if somebody is telling you what to do and not getting to understand you, they're actually putting their values on you. And they're challenging you based upon their values, not yours. That becomes a big problem. So much so that I had a situation yesterday where somebody wanted to resign from a position, and for them it was the right thing. They'd made that decision, a tough decision, made that decision. And then their friend, an amazing person who's actually a coach, goes, well, how are you going to handle things financially? You're going to have to go and buy a car. What else are you going to have to do? this person then decided not to resign. I turn up, have a conversation, we break through the process, explain today. Well, why is that? How are you feeling about that? What is it you feel is right for you? Why did you make that decision? Why did it become a non-decision now? Shut your eyes, feel into it. What feels right? Stand up, feel the energy. Actually, I feel like I need to resign. Okay, why? How do you feel about that now? Because you've got to change it, but where's the energy? The other person put their values, and she very nearly didn't resign from a job that's putting so much pressure on her in her life. That
sounds like it was the other person's fears.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. You know, and that's something about environment that's so important. Being amongst an environment that tries to understand, tries to learn you, tries to be more involved in, you know, understanding what it is you're going through. It's not necessarily about giving advice, but just understanding helps you process it.
It's the experience behind all that. Because you mentioned when you said before, you know, one of the things that you asked them was, how did that make them feel? Now, how many times have we heard psychologists and people complaining about psychologists? You tell them something, they go, well, how does that make you feel? Well, with their energy, it's a question that's out of a textbook. Whereas
exactly.
when you've
There's
said
no connection there.
Yeah, but when you've said it, there's that emotion behind it, the connection, the understanding, the direction of helping them to find their solution, as opposed to being just a word, you know, a question that's a filler. So, and this is what, because I look at a lot of comments that were made about Black Lives Matter, for instance, and I know that I always say that all lives matter. And I know a lot of people out in the community were saying, well, Black Lives Matter, and I was saying, no, all lives matter. And there was an angst between it. The Aboriginals want to be recognised for what they've been through, so their lives matter. But when you're just saying that, they're nothing but sayings. They're just terms. And some people are saying all lives matter just because they want to say that I don't want to hear about the Black Lives Matter anymore. But from where I come from is the fact I will continually say that all lives matter because that includes the Black lives. But in my case, I'm not just saying it, I'm taking action. The community that we've got here in the Campfire Project is that action. People are coming in here and every life matters, all colours. And so it's realising that when somebody makes a statement, look behind the statement, look at where they're coming from as well, to know whether to take offence to it or not to take offence to it and embrace it. And, you know, I've got some very close, uncles, aunties, brothers and sisters, people I love that are in that community. And with that, I look at that and I go, well, at the same time, all lives matter because my life matters. Everybody else around me matters. Your lives matter. And together we make that community. We've got reconciliation. The moment people not only say that all lives matter, but they act in that way, we have reconciliation like that. It's done. We're able to move forward. That's why I believe that because I can't go back to where I was before. I can only go forward from where I am now. And I'm hoping that's going to be stronger and stronger all the time. And the people around me are doing the same thing.
I'm going to throw something
on that note, the good news is it's date night.
You got to go. You need to go.
I have to go.
You do. I just want to
go
throw
for it.
one thing, and then instead of saying all lives matter, what if life mattered? Just that simple.
Yeah,
life matters. Life. We're all part of it. So, hey, Kenny,
that's a great point. Thank you for that, Scott.
No, I would love that. You know, life matters because we're all a part of it. Every single one of us is on an individual journey that's a part of a massive journey that we're all involved in. Life. You know, get beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is going to be edited into. Kenny, go. Date night. Can I just? I've just started up Sunday sessions conversations on Sunday nights. This week I'll be putting together a little bit of advertising for it. I want to advertise it for guys in the UK because I think that during this period of lockdown, we've got a lot of guys from Melbourne with a lot of experience about bits and pieces, and it's an open forum for them to ask any question they like. Do you mind if I tag you on a couple of posts to let you know, and then we'll try and get it out, because it's just a conversation piece where we just support each other. No different to what you do, but I want right now, I need to give that to as many guys in the UK as possible.
Cool.
Excellent. Hello, guys. Yep.
What's that guy's name? Paul something.
Stevens.
No, he's English, but he lives in Australia.
Oh, yeah, Cecil. That's his nickname.
Yeah, that's the one. Tell him, because his newsletter goes out to all sorts of people, and it lists loads of stuff. So yeah, I'll give him a shout. Right, date night. She's prettier than you two, so I'll catch you later.
We won't take offence. This is where we can tell you.
Even with the sunflower coming out of your nose. See you soon.
All right,
cool. Catch you guys later.
Thank you for being a part of my life, Kenny. It is so much richer with you in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Catch you soon.
Bye.
Bye.